Hello everybody and welcome back to TJ's Talkshow. Segment number 2, we're going to talk a little bit about the San Antonio Spurs. We're going to continue with the basketball theme today. The other two fronts, the MLB and NFL front, seem to be fairly quiet. MLB, hot stove, still warming up, so that'll be interesting the next few days, maybe in the next week or so. I have a feeling we'll do a lot of baseball talk. As far as the NFL, just another Wednesday afternoon. Games don't start till tomorrow. So today's kind of a quiet day, so might as well go a different route and talk a little basketball. Just did a segment about the Blazers and possible a trade or, maybe an option for Boogie Cousins. So, and then this segment, we're going to go ahead and talk about the San Antonio Spurs, mainly because they're my favorite team. So talk about an overview. This is a team that's currently 14-4, which is very encouraging since, they lost Tim Duncan. Who would have ever... I know I've yet to see a team that's Tim Duncan-less, and it's a little strange. It took me a few games to get used to not seeing 21 going out in the court every night, getting his 15 points or 12 points or whatever it was and getting his 20 minutes in. It was weird. I knew the day was going to come, and you saw it last year. His production was way down compared to the years past, but it's still weird to see, and it's still weird to see the old three, Popovich, Parker, and Ginobili, running around without Duncan keeping his cool self, just up and down the court, being a mentor, being a leader and a teacher to all these young guys, all these young up-and-coming, I think, could-be superstars that's on the Spurs roster. So, hopefully Tim Duncan is having fun in his car garage that he likes to soup up cars and stuff like that there in San Antonio. We miss him greatly in the Spurs Nation. But anyway, let's go ahead and talk about this so far. So the Spurs doing what the Spurs do, and that's win. A big part of that goes to their veteran leadership. You got, Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili. You finally got Danny Green back. He was missing some time, I believe, with the quad injury. Kawhi Leonard, the absolute freak, the claw. Bringing back L Train, LaMarcus Aldridge, in his second year with the Spurs. So now, in my opinion, he's the 2 option, obviously behind Leonard. But now he knows his role. Last year, I feel like there was too many times he was trying to force the ball to Tim Duncan or to Kawhi or someone else. And now that he knows his role and knows he's the second guy. He's our number 1 big. He's gonna get a bulk of the minutes. He's gonna get a lot of playing time and a lot of opportunities to score. So I think now that he's comfortable with that, he understands Pop's system. It's gonna make this a whole lot more interesting and a lot more fun to watch as a Spurs fan. And then you got Pau Gasol going to be in the anchor, another aging center who knows? Maybe Popovich turns his career around and gives him an extra couple years of pretty competitive, pretty efficient basketball, and turns him maybe into the Lakers version of Pau Gasol, or a guy who can score on a nightly basis. And he's done a fairly good job, in my opinion, to this point. Obviously, we're still only 18 games in, so there's still quite a few games left for Powell and see how that body holds up. But anyway, they got some pretty big wins already. Those 4 losses, I wasn't expecting them to go crazy or anything like that. Unfortunately, 3 out of their 4 losses are all at home. Actually, all 4 losses are at home, which is a little different compared to last year. Last year, I believe they only lost 2 games or 3 games at home. So it's a little bit of a change for me to expect. But, every team's different year in and year out. They lost a pretty big loss to Utah the other night, 106-91. Then they lost to the Clippers by a good chunk, 116-92. And then the Rockets, they lost a close one there, 101-99. And these are all early in the season. And then recently they lost on Tuesday. They lost last night, 95-83 to the Magic. But up until then, they went on a good stretch. They beat Detroit, who, yes, you could make the case isn't very good, but still, they gotta put up points. They beat them by 10. Beat James Harden and the Rockets. Beat Justice Winslow in Miami and the Miami Heat. Beat Boogie Cousins in Sacramento. Beat Julius Randle and the Lakers in LA. Beat a Dirkless and Nowitzki team without Dirk. They beat the Bobcats and Kemba Walker. They beat Boston and their athletic backcourt, Avery and Thomas and Marcus Smart. And then they beat Washington, Bradley Beal, John Wall the other night on Saturday. So, this team is very, very athletic, very not, what's the word I'm looking for? Unselfish. They're very pass-friendly, which typical Greg Popovich style. I mean, that after that very first game of the year, Jonathan Simmons went off in that huge blowout to start the year against the Warriors. And, I mean, I wasn't expecting him to do something along those lines again. That was a blowout, so he got extended minutes. But he hasn't been too bad. Tony Parker does what Tony Parker does, drive the lane, uses his leadership and his experience to get everyone open. Patty Mills, the Thunder from down under, doing a great job getting his spot starts on back-to-backs and stuff like that when Tony's getting off on the bench with rest. You can't be disappointed with Patty Mills and, some up-and-new-coming guys. Davis Bertans has done a great job. Nicholas Laprovitola has done a great job. A guy that's literally come out of nowhere. Has really stepped up when he's asked to. I know his stats don't really talk all that. I mean, he's averaging 2.8 points a game, but there's more than just running around out there. I mean, it looks like he's really grasped the system and stuff like that. Dejounte Murray, another point guard who gets a little bit of playing time every once in a while, especially on days when Tony Parker doesn't have to play on days off on back-to-backs. You finally got Danny Green back. Manu Ginobili does what he does. Still not quite to the same capacity that he used to, but last night against the Magic, 13 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists. So that's a pretty good game if you ask me, out of a 37-year-old. Pau Gasol, good addition, I think, for the Spurs, kind of taking over Tim Duncan's role as the anchor. Pretty much does the exact same thing, 10 points, 7 rebounds a game. So, I mean, you know what you're going to get out of Pau Gasol, but he's a great team guy, even better passer, especially as a center. He sees double teams. He knows how to pass out of them. He sees over everything. He's a good 7-footer. Difference maker if you don't add Pau Gasol to this team. You got a guy like David Lee and LaMarcus Aldridge starting as your front court, and it's just a whole different dynamic. And of course, you got the L train, LaMarcus, 18 points, 6 rebounds, doing a great job down there now that he understands his role a lot better. And then how can you forget, in my opinion, a guy who's going to be in the MVP running for the next 5 years at least, Kawhi Leonard, 24 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists. That's what he's averaging so far on the year. The way Westbrook's playing this year, I don't see Kawhi winning, but I don't see anyone else really beating Westbrook this year anyway. But still, he'll at least be in the talk, Leonard will. So that's encouraging. You got a bunch of guys that are starting to form. Pop has done a great job keeping the core together. Parker, Mills, Leonard, Green, Ginobili. I mean, those guys have been together for a handful of years now, and now you're just adding, a guy who's been around in the league like Pau and LaMarcus, and you give them guys like Bertans and Lapertivola and Murray and and Jonathan Simmons. I mean, that guy's got a great success story. If you don't know it, I'll go ahead and give you the brief version of it, and it's basically he paid $150 or something along those lines to do a tryout in the D-League. and he ended up making the D-League team for the San Antonio Spurs, which I believe is... name is coming to a blank. But, alright, I just pulled up the story. $150 registration fee just to get into the D-League that was about 60 people, and he played on the Stampede, I believe is what the Austin Stampede, I believe is their name, the D-League for the Spurs, and now he's a starter he's a big role player, a big guy in the rotation for the Spurs. But literally in 2013, he gave it his best shot, paid $150 to go to a tryout for the D-League, made it, spent 2 years in the D-League trying to feed his family. I saw a thing on here, he's got 4 daughters. So this guy's got the true success story. So to see him doing what he's doing is really great. 5 points, 2 rebounds a game, 2 assists. But he does a lot more than that because he can play the 2 to 3. All right, so he does a lot more than just fill up the roster. And like I said, he's been getting some pretty decent minutes this season with Coach Pop, and really understands the system that the Spurs are trying to run, and really fits well into it. You got guys like Kyle Anderson, who was in the league last year, saw a little bit of time, and does well. You know, he's a guy that's still young, just 22, 23 years old. So, you know, he's still fitting into the NBA, making that transition. Then you got another semi-veteran guy, Dwayne Dedman, who's just a big body who grabs rebounds. That's pretty much his only job here with the Spurs. Last night he grabbed 8. All right, grabbed 8 rebounds and had 2 blocks. So this is our defensive anchor, I guess, off the bench. If you need a couple of blocks or anything like that, you go to Dwayne Dedman. So another good filler, because you know Pau Gasol will at least contest shots, but he's not going to be a guy who blocks 3 shots a game. Dedman's a guy who can at least block a couple a game, you know, and make it a point that nothing's going to come easy in the paint against the San Antonio Spurs. So that's pretty much where the Spurs are, 14-4, and it's encouraging to see. And you know what? Their next game actually is on the 2nd, so Friday against Washington at home. Then they go on a 3-game road trip next week at Milwaukee, at Minnesota, at Chicago. I could see him coming back to San Antonio, or going back to San Antonio on the 10th of December after 4 wins. I mean, Washington they just beat recently. Milwaukee, a team that's very beatable. You're going to have Kawhi guarding the Greek freak Giannis Antetokounmpo, which will be a great matchup to watch. If you have the chance to watch it, I would. Hopefully I can watch. That'll be on Monday the 5th. But this next month of December, I could see him having a pretty good month, and maybe, you know, trying to get in the first place in the Western Conference, which will definitely be tough. I mean, right now they're 2 games behind Golden State, so definitely something in their grasp and definitely possible. So that's pretty much the Spurs season breakdown so far. Much different than the segment I just did about the Blazers segment and their lack of defense. The Spurs play pretty good defense, which has always been a staple for Coach Pop and the Spurs. So that's pretty much all I got here for this segment about the San Antonio Spurs. We're about 30 seconds away from my time slot being up on Spreaker. So once again, I want to thank you guys for listening. Hopefully tomorrow or the next few coming days we can get a little bit more well-rounded with my talk on the talk show. Talk a little bit more baseball, football, basketball stuff, and not keep it so limited at one sport per segment. Or maybe we'll just start building segments at a time. But I will be on again tomorrow. So if you have nothing to do, please bring on in and listen live. And I'm TJ Perneda. Thank you guys so much for listening, and I'll see you tomorrow.